I saw three unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. For they are the spirits of devils, working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of that great day of the Most High Almighty. Revelation chapter 16, verse 13 and 14. Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Brachah, Kodash. Double honor to our venerable apostles and others of great millstone who rule well. Peace and blessings to the Lord's elect, the house of David. It's the brother Aharon coming back at you with a quick lesson, Lowell, and be edifying and uplifting unto the elect. All right, and saw this article here. Okay, it's actually dated today. All right, November 19th, I think. All right, oh, yep, right here. Okay, and this is from PNW, which is Prophecy News Watch. Okay, it's a good name, as you can see at the top. All right, and it's titled Cloudflare, Internet Overwhelmed After Cloudflare Outage. Okay, and I believe I heard this earlier today or yesterday at the time that I'm recording. All right, and of course, you got a lot of different speculations of what it could be and so on and so forth, But ultimately, like we always say, these are all part of the signs. Okay, ultimately, you're going to have a time where America is going to have a complete grid shutdown. Okay, and you have, through predictive programming, all right, and also something known as a revelation of the method, these elites have been telling the world, all right, they've had simulations and drills and, all these different things that's happened, events that's happened over the years to prepare for this time that we're about to enter into, which is a time of complete darkness and chaos. Okay, everything goes down. The whole entire grid gets shut down. And once it comes back up, you have a whole new system. Okay, that's what they call the transition. All right, we call it Jacob's trouble. They call it the transition because once you take people or you push people to that brink, all right, of complete exhaustion, because you want to break them before you take them over. That's what this is all about. The fourth industrial revolution. So everything that we're seeing, food crisis, energy crisis, all right, economic turmoil, all these things build up the healthcare crisis that's about to ensue very soon through insurance companies and, certain things that's about to play out that's going to completely affect the already down and out so-called everyday Americans, man. They saying that this so-called Christmas season, expect every so-called American who engages in this holiday shit, all right, you're going to be spending at least $1,000 on just holiday stuff, And I'm like, damn, like, that's crazy. Like, but people are going to find a way to do it because they're wicked. All right. But again, we look at it as signs of the end. Okay, and this is another major sign because a grid shutdown, so-called internet shutdown, is going to be a shock to the system that they need. Okay, that disruption that they've been talking about. They want to talk about a great leap. Okay, you've had people from the World Economic Forum mention or talk about the potential for a global cyber attack that shuts down everything, infrastructure, everything. Okay, within the next 2 years. And this was back in 2023, 2022, 2023, around there. All right. They said that within the next 2 to 3 years, I remember back earlier in 2020, they said within the next 2 to 5 years, we are in that time frame. Okay, and everything they're setting up, they got Trump coming in, doing things, all this quick things, AI this, and, executive order for AI to do this and to do that. All this stuff that they're doing so fast, all right, within the first year is insane. All right, they're moving very, very quickly, man. And events like this definitely brings more clarity to problem, reaction, solution. Okay, but it says here, for a few tense minutes today, the world got a small but sobering preview of what a true digital catastrophe might look like. Cloudflare, right? I'm gonna pause right there. Cloudflare, okay, sounds very much like last year you had CrowdStrike, all right, and then I think earlier this week, you've been hearing a lot of these so-called experts pop up out of nowhere talking about, we having a solar flare that could affect the energy grid. You see, And then I believe about a month ago, around about a month ago, all right, almost a month now. I think it was October 20 or something like that. About a month ago, you had this whole AWS that went down, this outage from AWS, the servers and all that went down, okay? And it affected a whole lot of businesses, a whole lot of everyday apps that people use, whether it be for money transaction. You got Zelle, right? You got the various different bank apps to make deposits or, to do whatever, right? You have your bank apps. Those get affected by these kinds of events. Okay, you have your food ordering systems like DoorDash or whatever the case may be. All right, in a case of emergency where you can't even go outside, you want to order food like people think how normal things would be. Boom, that's also going to take a hit. How people even function to do jobs because these things also affect corporate America. It's a complete shock. Okay, so stock market is affected by it. Companies are reporting loss at an all-time high. We're talking billions per minute, per second. Ridiculous shit like that. It's like complete chaos everywhere you go. Some gas prices going up out of nowhere, crazy, right? Just think of those kind of scenarios. Now that's a chaotic time, okay? But CrowdStrike, now you got Cloudflare, okay? It says the invisible backbone behind millions of websites went down. It was brief, it was contained, but it was enough to jolt the global system and remind us how fragile our digital existence really is. So we're preparing for another 9/11, but this time it's going to be a digital 9/11. All right. I'm not saying it's going to happen on 9/11, but it's an event like 9/11, an event that completely changes, all right, the trajectory of the country and the world because there's a global push, which shows you just by that alone that all this thing is a scam. Okay, anytime there's a problem, that all of a sudden you have these experts pop up and talk about we need a global approach to fix this problem, and that's the only way. No other narrative is permissible. Okay, every other narrative given that goes against what we're saying, all right, as the only solution there is, that's going to be deemed misinformation and disinformation. It's just ridiculous, man. It's going to be deemed anti this and hate speech that. Hateful and what do they call it? Hateful and dangerous content. ESO, man. But this is all supposedly going to fix all that. That's the biggest problem. Mis and disinformation, radicalized fringe groups, extreme, whatever. All these tropes, all these labels that they put on people who speak the truth, especially us, the prophets, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai's men, okay, starting from my elders and apostles of Great Millstone on down. They're trying to find a way to shut us down. Simple. All right, because this truth has pushed all throughout the whole entire world. The topic of everyone right now is the Hebrew Israelites. Okay? And the next major events are all going to be so spiritual that the only thing they're going to be thinking about is the Hebrew Israelites, predominantly the prophets. Okay? The prophets of the Lord. Especially when the MOTB is made mandatory. Oh, the whole world is going to be looking for the men of the Lord. Okay? Because that's the only thing they're going to remember. Yo, these men been saying this. It says, we are quite literally one major cyber attack or catastrophic technical failure away from a worldwide crisis. Okay, and those crises have been prophesied by many different prophets. Okay, it's a time of Jacob's trouble. Okay, you notice the crisis has already started. All right, when you have food crisis, when you have inflation, all these different things that are happening are what is known as a poly crisis. Okay, everyone is complaining. Job problems, that's a crisis right there, right? And like I said, the health insurance, I'm telling you, look, there's going to be a problem with that. Huge problem. Doctors, hospitals, they're not going to care about you because it's all a business now. Okay? So it is what it is, man. All right? You're going to be having all these new rules for vehicles, like the road, to keep everyone safe, right? And it's all going to be draconian. It's going to be rights infringing. You're going to feel more closed in. Like every day, everything that goes by, all these legislations that pass on, these events that keep happening, all right, every single time they seem to be resolved, it's always going to be some form of less freedom for you type shit. You know, more of you having to prove your identity and prove your allegiance and prove that you're a good person and all. It's just crazy, man. You know, but all these things are all part of the crisis. All right, poly crisis. All right, it says, and today's Cloudflare crash, following on the heels of the colossal AWS outage earlier this year, should wake us up. Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier. All right, and you know, it used to be a time where maybe a outage like this happens, and then 3-4 years, maybe 5 years, and then it'll happen again, but it's subtle. You know, you'd be like, oh, yo, this was happening, da da da. Hey, this ain't this outage that. You know, hey, you know, and then now it's like almost like a yearly thing, and now it's like a monthly thing. So it's going to be a weekly thing and then a daily thing, and then that's just a new normal. This is why we're justified to have you be required to have a digital ID. It trickles down, man. Just watch. Okay? It says Cloudflare is not just another tech company. Its network handles 81 million HTTP requests per second, protecting and powering roughly 20% of all active websites on Earth. If you visited a bank, checked email, streamed music, logged into a business portal, or even tried to read the news today, there's a good chance Cloudflare was involved. It also supports 35% of all Fortune 500 websites, see, undergirding everything from financial transactions to supply chain operations. There you go. So your food will be definitely affected by it. Your medication will be definitely affected by it. And those two things alone, in this mental asylum here called America, by the scriptures known as Babylon the Great, confusion. How you people get so confused? Babylon the Great, all the medication, all the standard American diet, all these things add to why you people are known as Babylonians. Okay? And you behave like barbarians, if not worse. All right? Very barbaric people. All right? Animals, I always tell my brother this. I say, animals are better than Americans. He said, yeah. I said, because look, when you're driving on the streets, all right, and animals in the street, they get out the way. All right? But a human being gets in the way. And you wonder, like, what kind of creatures are these? How do we categorize these ones here? You know, you look up to heavens, you get so mad, you just look up, you just look up in the heavens. You know, you thank the Lord, and then you thank the Lord some more. You're like, Lord, the water for, number one, me not being like this abominable creature right here. Because I don't know what to call him. It's not a human being. You know, I'm not sure what that is. It's not definitely not an animal. You know, animals are much smarter than that. So what could this one be right here? You start thinking about it. And then you start thinking how you justified in hurting this creature right here. And then you just let it go and leave it to the Lord. You know? I had this one demon, all right, crossing the street when it's not for him to cross the street. And then he taking his sweet time, and then he starts dancing in the middle of the street. Meanwhile, there's oncoming cars coming, and I got to get out the way, and he's in my way. Boy, I was so pissed. And I honk at him, and he looks at me, and he's just like dancing and laughing and shit. And I'm like, yo, this is the shit, yo. You know? But soon, all these things will be corrected. Yeah. We're going to watch. We're going to sit back and watch, because fools like that, they're going to get ate up by these ICE agents and these DARPA robot dog troops that's going to be coming in here very soon. All right, you're going to see, man. Just watch. All right? It's going to be a beautiful time. Okay, it says, so when Cloudflare went dark, even for a moment, the impact reverberated around the world. In fact, the outage was so disruptive that even Down Detector, the service people use to see what's broken, went down. That's how deeply intertwined Cloudflare, I keep wanting to say CrowdStrike, but it's Cloudflare, all right, is with the basic plumbing of the internet. You know it's a bad it's a bad Cloudflare outage when it even takes out Down Detector, one user said. End quote. It says large platforms including X, ChatGTP, Canva, and Spotify all experienced disruptions. Millions of users couldn't log in. Businesses froze in place, websites stalled, digital dashboards, those central control rooms for modern companies became inaccessible. And you know what's crazy? I remember that yesterday was Monday. Well, the day before was Monday. I remember I was logging into my work phone, and it had logged me out. And every time I try to log back in, it'll tell me to update. But when I went onto the App Store to update it, for some reason, it will show me to open the app or uninstall. It never gave me the option to update. So I said, what's this? So I delete it and I'll reinstall, because typically if you uninstall and then install it, you get the latest update. So that's what I was doing. It still didn't work. So I said, what's going on? So I texted my supervisor and I was like, hey, da 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 da, and I showed him a small little video of what I'm dealing with to better explain what's going on. And about an hour after that, he sent a group chat to all of us in there, that, hey, the situation is being addressed by, the higher ups and so on and so forth. So I was like, oh shit, so it wasn't just me. So then I started thinking about it. I was like, so is there how what could have possibly been the reason for this to happen, and how they gonna fix it? So I'm thinking, oh man, I might not be able to go to work today, so whatever. And then, let's say 30 minutes after that, we got a text that, hey, the situation should be resolved. Just restart your devices, whatever. So I went ahead and did that, and it worked. And I said, what happened here? This was very strange. Like this morning, I was like, oh, what happened? All right, so it makes sense why that was going on, and it affected the whole entire system. The whole system was down. So you got call centers, right, that are going to be shut down, and there's nothing they could do nowadays. Where everything being, you got to be authenticated, people are going to be stuck in place. You imagine having an emergency that you need to get things done, maybe a hospital visit or whatever, and then you can't do nothing because these human beings have turned to robots where they can't use their brain no more, right? Everything is, you have to sign this and make sure this, and if we can't pull up your portal and make sure you're authenticated and two-step verification, then we can't proceed. Meanwhile, you're in pain, right? Meanwhile, you're going through some shit that you need emergency. It's an emergency. These niggas gonna stall for hours talking about we can't authenticate you because the systems are down. I'm sorry. This place is about to be crazy, man. All right, it says here, I'm gonna skip a few of these right here. Support my website. Support my.website, a major website maintenance provider, told Cyber News that outages at this scale could cost companies $5 to $15 billion per hour. Listen to that, man. For perspective, Parametrics Insurance estimated the direct financial losses from the CrowdStrike outage in July 2024, when a faulty security patch bricked 8.5 million Windows devices, okay, at $5.4 billion for Fortune 500 companies alone. All right, 5.4. So it's not as bad as 15 billion. All right, that was just one event, one patch, one mistake. Oh, okay. Today we saw the beginnings of how quickly everything can unravel when the digital infrastructure we've come to depend on hiccups. Okay, it says, and make no mistake, Cloudflare is not unique. It is a part of a disturbingly small club of digital superpowers. AWS, which is Amazon Web Services. You got Google Cloud, you got Microsoft Azure, you got Cloudflare. All right, typically you don't hear of these. Normally you'll hear Google and Microsoft, but Cloudflare is also in the background. Meanwhile, they got all this power, okay, whose services quietly hold up the world. They are the unseen foundations upon which modern life now balances. If one of them buckles, the consequences radiate across the entire planet in seconds. And you know why that is? Because you got a small minority of people that control all of these through something known as shareholder capitalism. Okay, so Cloudflare, with all that power they have, Amazon Web Services and Google and all the power that they have shares. All right, you have stockholders, and these stockholders, when you track them all down, it goes back to typically you got 2, sometimes 3, all right, of these top corporations. You got Vanguard, you got what's the other one? State Street, and then you have BlackRock. Okay, these 3, and typically Vanguard is at the top. You got BlackRock, you of course State Street, all these different ones. You have BlackRock, and then you have Vanguard. Okay, and it's like a pyramid. The higher you go, the more power is consolidated, but the fewer they are. So Vanguard all the way down, and they all trace back to who? The damn Rothschilds, man. All right, and then they have all these puppet leaders that they put in place. So you might go to Blackstone, and you have their CEO over there. right? And then you got um, BlackRock, you got the CEO over there, and you got Vanguard, another CEO, and then it's like it just keeps on going. But like when you track and see their tentacles, they have their hands in everything, traveling, hotels, food, medical industry, politics. Okay, in terms of donate, they call it donors, right? Donators and shit, donors. You know, private investors is what they call them. It's just sick, bro. These names that they put upon themselves to trick people, right? But these are all infiltrating your governments and controlling your world that you're living in. Okay, they control these corporations. They set policies that you have to follow. The banks, they set policies that we all have to follow. So this whole digital stuff, digital ID and all that the world governments are pushing is a privately conspired idea by the top elites of this world so they can have complete control over the whole entire planet. It's called the so-called New World Order. It's a conspiracy by a few, okay? And they're using your governments. They've infiltrated the world governments and they're bringing about this conspiracy, whether people like to accept it or not. Okay, so events like this, Cloudflare and all that, it's all controlled and it's going to be brought down in a controlled fashion so they can get their desired outcome. Okay, controlled chaos, so to speak. All right, it says it would be as if in the 20th century, all the power grids, all the phone lines, and all the banks were owned by 2 or 3 companies, like I just mentioned: Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street, and they could go offline at once. Okay, if they shut everything down, if one company misbehaves, like all this FFA, the Federal Aviation Administration, I think, all right, you have all those issues they're having with the planes, the flights, and all these different things that's going on, TSA workers and all this, right? Government shutdown affected all these different things. Guess what? All these Boeings and aircraft this and cargo this and all these planes, guess what? They have stockholders, okay? And these stockholders own a lot, like a huge percentage. It might seem small, but man, when you go into it in terms of money, 8%, all right? 8%, when they say, oh, they have a share of 8%, the largest share, 8% or 13%, you thinking, damn, that's it? 13% and you got the largest? Yeah. But when you look at it in money, right, we're talking billions. You're like, oh, okay, I see why. You know? So yeah, they have control, man. They have all the power. All right. And when you say it, they say, oh, that's anti-Sem. No, that's not anti-Sem. That's facts. Okay? And facts ain't hate. All right. It says, we've created a world where a handful of systems, not nations, not armies, not governments, hold the keys to global stability. Okay? And this is all, hey, who knows? This whole thing could have been some type of AI test. You know, ultimately they want to shift everything to AI, so this could have been an AI thing. AI go rogue and then AI affects and attacks other AI and shit. Like, yeah, it's crazy madness, man. I wouldn't be surprised. All right, it says today's outage exposed that truth again. It also exposed something more unsettling: our complete lack of preparedness. Okay, all this government stuff that they're doing, and you're still not prepared because the government don't want you to be prepared, man. Ultimately, the only preparation that's going to be required in the times we're coming in is going to be spiritual preparation. That's it. All right, all the other preparations, man, Esau already has things on the docket to come against all that preparation. You got people saying, oh, we coming together to form groups that we could, take care of each other. And, bro, they know that. They know that, bro. They know that. They're taking all this time to find out who's who, where you going to be at, all right, what kind of gathering you planning to. They're going to make laws to shut all that shit down to make it illegal to do that anyway. Okay? For all, because of your safety. You can't be doing no gatherings. They've already showed you that 2020 was a dry run of what's about to be happening soon, but it's going to be enforced. It's going to be nasty. All right? But that's a beautiful masterpiece. Okay? Masterpiece. Anyway, it says, most people are shocked when the internet stutters, as if it were a natural law of the universe rather than a stitched together network of servers, cables, and companies working at staggering scale. We run off, and then that's true. These companies don't take a day off. They work 7 days a week, 24/7, bro. Every single day around the clock. You got people working. Okay, these companies do not sleep. And of course, eventually they want to replace these people with machines, AI. And AI is not going to be sleeping at all, 24/7 running. And it's going to be, that's going to be what's going to be powering the system of the people, the goyim. All right, you get your C-hip, and then they use AI to control everything. You're going to have people, that could have mercy on you and shit. Now, you seen that Palantir commercial video, little advertisement thing? And it's so, man, no mercy. It's truly a beast system, you know? So it says, we run our families, finances, businesses, travel, healthcare records, government services, and nearly every form of communication through networks we barely understand and cannot control. That's why it's going to be, like it says, as a thief in the night. It's going to happen suddenly. Just like that, everything changes. Like Klaus Schwab said, he said what? He said, everything, it says, this thing is going, our whole system, the infrastructure is going to be deeply affected. Your food supply chains, you know how he says it, yeah, that shit is going to be deeply affected. All kinds of stuff, man. Right? It says we have no backup plan, no fallback infrastructure, no analog alternative. We live in a world where the failure of one company server cluster can freeze parts of society. And that's the plan. Okay? This time they want to freeze the whole entire global, all right, global world. All right? Geosense. All right? It says, and if a cyber attack, state-sponsored or criminal, ever target one of these major providers with a successful prolonged strike, that's the key, prolonged, right? The damage would be far beyond a few minutes of website downtime. That's it. That's all they need, because just a few minutes causes enough damage. Even though it kind of seems everything kind of comes back online, imagine if that shit went on for a couple of days, a couple of weeks. You're not working. Nothing is going on. Damn, that's crazy. That's crazy. It says we could be talking about banking paralysis. Ooh. Transportation gridlock. Ooh. Inaccessible medical systems. Ooh, that's a big one. Disrupted supply chains and mass financial losses cascading through every sector of the global economy. It's pretty much what I just said. It says it's not an exaggeration to say that such an attack could push nations into emergency mode. That's what they need. Okay? The next emergency is poof. Hey, we're going to see it. We're that close. The question is no longer if this kind of crisis could happen. It is when and how bad and how ready we are. Today's outage was a warning, one we should take seriously. We need redundancy. We need contingency plans. Companies need analog backups for core operations. Families need to know how to function during a widespread digital blackout. But see, what the thing is, even if you have these alternatives, they're deeming these things illegal anyway. In the name of climate change and control and help, if you got a farm, you got animals, they're going to come down and shut that shit down and say it's unsafe, right? Because of the climate and because of the health and safety and of the public and all that. You growing your own crops is going to be deemed unsafe for the environment. You see, if it's not approved by them, this is the new draconian laws they're going to be coming down with, just in time for that system of, all hell breaking loose and people want to be on some survival type of time. They're going to shut it down. All right. I seen a video the Elder Apostle Tahar was doing. I think this was last week. All right. And I think it was doing a lesson, land backing off of the Elder Malcolm out of Chicago. Okay. And basically in the video, you had this dude. I perceive him to be a Jake, even though he looked like an Edomite. All right. But he had a spirit of what a mindset of a Jake should really be, which is, these devils is coming out with the C-hip, which is the mark of the beast. And I'm not going to take it when it comes. And all this planning, if you don't keep your faith in the Lord, all these planning that you're doing and all this, guess what? They're trying to shut everything down. The government is quite literally poisoning the water, like rivers and shit like that. Lakes, rivers that people could potentially use as a means of survival. All right. Talking about living off grid. Okay. Shit. You're going to be locked out of that too. So they poison the air. So you're going to be shut down in your houses. They're poisoning the water, so you can't go outside on some survival type of time. Okay? They're poisoning the soil. With all these chemtrails, when it rains and it pours into the soil, it's destroying the soil. So now you got to go get some specific type of fertilizer that's synthetic, that's created by them in these labs, that's gonna enrich the so and quote unquote enrich the soil that's already been destroyed by them. So now they make money both ways. You gotta get a specific type of seed that's good for this kind of soil that's messed up, and you gotta get a specific type of fertilizer to come in and fertilize this specific kind of soil for this specific kind of genetically modified seeds. It's just crazy, man. And if you're not doing it that way, they're gonna shut your shit down and say you're not doing things to keep the environment safe and clean. Or you want to have cows that eat natural grass and they're open in the field. Oh no, that's too much methane right there. We have to shut you down. They open up a chemical company right next to where animals and people live at, and then they pollute the water, and then people don't notice. So they drink in the water, they feed into the animals. Next thing you know, animals are getting sick. The soil is polluted. The people are sick. Cancer all over the place, right? And then you go find out, do some research. You find out, oh shit, hey, the state has shut you down as a farmer. You can't do nothing over here no more, because your land is unsafe for the animals to live here. So we're gonna have to euthanize them all. And then you go do research. The farmer didn't cause that. He's not the one poisoning his animals on purpose. He's worried that he's seen all these changes in the animals' behavior, and they getting sick and all this shit. He's like, why are they all of a sudden doing this? And it's like, I started seeing this happening as soon as this fucking chemical plant came over here, man. And now look, and the government gonna come and shut him down and say, hey, you can't do no work no more because your place is unsafe. The water you're feeding these animals is not safe to drink. And he's like, well, that's not my fault. I didn't do this. Who did this? Find out it's this big ass company over there making money. That's in the government's pocket. The government gave them the ability to go over there and set up shop right there and pollute this whole water shit that you got going on, giving everybody cancer, man. Okay? And they have billions of dollars. So if you try to do a lawsuit, you're gonna lose. So you just better off just shutting them down and just leaving it alone. It's just you against them. You see? So that's how they overpower these people. And so your avenues of getting, different things to have a small little survivalist community, man, look, they already got, or let's just say they got the bases covered. Let's just say that. So that's why we keep emphasizing the importance of keeping your faith in the Lord, because that's the only way out. Okay? Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh is the only way out. Okay? And this guy's talking about redundancy and all this. Is the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, through his only begotten Son, Yahweh is the only way out. Okay? It says governments need to diversify their dependencies on private infrastructure, and the global community needs to recognize that the internet, for all its brilliance, is not invincible. Because if a brief Cloudflare outage can shake the world, imagine what happens if it isn't brief, and if it isn't an accident, and if it isn't fixed in minutes. A truly global digital blackout would not just inconvenience us, it would change the way humanity uses the internet forever. And if we do not prepare now, that day will catch us completely off guard. And that day is meant to catch people completely off guard. As a matter of fact, let's get that. I believe in the book of Ecclesiastes. Let me just see here. Ecclesiastes. Go up. I believe is it 9 and verse 12. Let's see. There you go. Ecclesiastes chapter 9 verse 12. It says, "For man also knoweth not his time, as the fishes that are taken in an evil net." Right? When you got these big ass nets that these corporations be using, and then they catch all kinds of fish. Sometimes the fishes be stuck in the net for mad long. You see what I'm saying? They'll pull it and you be like, damn, that shit. Sometimes they'll try to escape. If it's a bigger fish, they'll cut through the netting and escape, right? But the netting would have been stuck in their scales somewhere, on their fins somewhere, and it'd be cutting right through their skin for years. Okay? But here it's talking about those fishes that will get caught in that net. All right, it's referred to as an evil net because it happened unexpectedly. Fish is not expecting to get caught like that. That's why they get caught. Okay. It says, and as the birds that are caught in the snare, right, so are the sons of men snared in an evil time. when it falleth suddenly upon them. Okay? So just, this right here happens suddenly, but this could be the beginning. Like we always say, the beginning, the beginning, beginning. Yes, eventually the beginning actually happens, and you just keep on going from there. It's a trickle-down effect. All right? This is, you got what I called this a couple of years ago, or last year, I think. All right, the lights are flickering. This is part of the lights flickering. Before the light goes out, it flickers. And then boom, just like that. Okay? Just like that. And right now, with the way the system is working, it's not going to be a good thing to get to have something like this happen. Especially getting towards the holiday season and it's cold ass weather. Dark winter. A dark winter indeed. Okay? Let's end it off with this. This is the book of Isaiah chapter 30, verse 1. It says, Woe to the rebellious children, saith the Lord Yahweh, that take counsel, but not of me, and that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin. Right? So you got people today, especially now, who not taking on the covering of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai by listening to the prophets of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. We're giving you the warning, bro. All right? We're telling you exactly what's coming. All right? The prophets today are a combination of prophets and being, in the spirit. Okay, prophecy and spirit. Those two things go together. All right. These other camps, they teaching you all kinds of different shit. All right, they doing all kinds of different carnal stuff. They're not really in the spirit. Okay, sellouts left and right, arguing all kinds of different shit. They just don't have the spirit. All right, they just don't have the spirit. Okay, and the Lord is showing it. He's revealing it in these last days. Okay, so those who are not covered by Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, they're gonna be left out there, man. This is the time where you're gonna have to go to the buyers and you're gonna have to go to the sellers and buy. Okay, you're gonna have to go to the sellers and buy, man. Oh, yo, can y'all break down this and can y'all? You're gonna have to go figure it out. Soon, very soon, that's what the Spirit of the Lord gonna be giving. Okay? Because you're gonna listen to these other false groups, false camps, false prophets, and then when the shit go down, everybody wanna tune in to listen to what the brothers of Great Millstone, the apostles, the bishops, all right, the prophets, the priests, they wanna hear what we gotta say. The brothers, okay? Because I'm a brother. Isaiah 30 verse 2, it says that walk to go down into Egypt and have not asked at my mouth, to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh and to trust in the shadow of Egypt. Right? They everything like NLT just explains it. Let's read it in NLT. It says, for without consulting me, right, you have gone down to Egypt. America is spiritual Egypt. All right, this Egypt is talking about America for help. You have put your trust in Pharaoh's protection, right? Trump told you all this shit. Okay? Oh, keeping the city safe and all this. You have tried to hide in his shade. You've tried to be under these things. Oh, the SNAP benefits, if the government doesn't open, we're going to do it. Man, stop. All right? Stop. It says, therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame, and the trust in the shadow of Egypt your confusion. All right? Because you depended on this system so much. All right? When they pull the rug out from underneath your feet, you're going to fall face flat, man. All right? You're going to fall face flat, and you're not going to get up. Okay? And that's exactly what this devil is about to do to a lot of people. They're going to pull that proverbial chair from underneath you right when they tell you you can sit down. And then boom, you're going to fall flat on your ass, and then boom, going to stomp you out. Okay? A poly crisis is coming. All right? It's coming. As in, what you're seeing right now is just the lights flickering. When the lights go out. Anyway, I'm going to leave it up there alone when you're edified and informed. In closing, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem B'chakodash, the water Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai. Until next time, Shalom.